We're also lucky because we have a wonderful speaker this morning. Our speaker today is Jamie Bianchini. I got some tutoring on that. Jamie has spent the last 2 decades globe-trotting nearly 100 countries to explore his passions of adventure sports, intercultural connections, and social entrepreneurship. Jamie will share his experiences and experiments conducted along the journey with us today. He lives and works here in Bend as a speaker and consultant to help organizations and businesses find innovative ways to solve our most challenging social and environmental issues. Fun fact, I love this fun fact. Jamie was featured in the Who's Who in America 2020 book, and he is sandwiched between Joe Biden and Justin Bieber.
Thank you very much. The sound is working? Okay, I was told this is my safe zone here, that I can take off the mask, so I respect you guys. If I get too close, you can remind me. I'll try not to fall off the step. Thank you. My wife and I bought a house here on March 20th, 2020, just down the road, and came up and saw this beautiful church. I'm like, oh, well, we can't really go to the church right now. Everything kind of closed down. So this is my first time being in here, and I've always said, one of these days I'm going to go in and check out this congregation, and I'm very happy to be here. Very happy to be here. And so if anyone's in the back there and can't see the screen that's up here, you might want to move around, because we're going to be taking a trip around the world together today. I think it's fitting with what's going on. We haven't had for 2 years the ability to connect with our world, connect even locally, much less take a passport and go out and connect on a deeper level with the rich cultures and faces and languages that are out in the world. So without further ado, usually I do this talk in about 45 minutes, so compressing it down to 15-ish was a bit of a challenge, and I'm not going to deprive you of going around the world, but we will need to move a little bit faster. So if you didn't have enough coffee this morning, you might want to stand at the edge of your seat here and hold on to your handlebars. It's going to be fun. So we're going to start with a quote by Thich Nhat Hanh. As you may know, he finally passed last month, but this is one of my favorite quotes. Awareness is like the sun. When it shines on things, they are transformed. So there's a couple nuggets that I've taken in my 50 years of this life that I'll share on a slide like this with the sun, to invite you to shine awareness on where it might be of help to transform our lives going forward. So let's start at the beginning. When we're babies, when we're kids. Beyond just being super cute, there are some things we're born with. We're very curious, right? We put things in our mouth, and we really want to explore. We're also very open and trusting, right? There's not a lot of barriers of like skin color or of fear or of anything like that when you're a kid. But people didn't know that we're actually born being compassionate. It's actually something we're born with. A lot of people didn't know that, and actually science actually backs us up, since we're a science-based congregation here. There's been a lot of science that actually back up that we're actually born with a compassionate instinct. So if you get injured or you're sad, a child will come up and console you naturally, which is a really beautiful thing. That's what I'm gonna explore. I'm gonna share my journey with compassion in my life and see if this adventure affects you in any way. This is me. I'm not quite as cute as that other baby. That's me when I was exploring as a little kid. I was also very curious, loved touching things, of moving different places. And as I got older, that exploration and that adventurous moved to bicycles. I loved riding my bike. It gave me great sense of freedom to go and see what was on various areas of the neighborhood. And I also loved looking at globes. For some reason, looking at globes and maps and spinning that globe and wondering where I was going to end up, I was extremely curious. And I said, I'm going to eventually go and travel the world one day. Even as I went into college, I graduated from college. I won the award of best business plan at school. I was very proud, but still was like, I'm going to go and travel the world. But then in graduated college, this is what happened. I started to become quite a bit more serious, right? For some reason, really unconsciously, layers of fear slowly came on top of me, and expectations and belief systems that said, stop playing around, get serious. You need to make money. You need to, prove yourself out in the market. If you want to attract a wife, all these different beliefs that I just went out and put my head down, and I stopped riding my bike. I stopped playing. It didn't have that compassion in there. I didn't really think about much other people, quite frankly, than me. But my journey ended there. About at age of 28, I went bankrupt. And I hit a rock bottom point in my life where I destroyed a lot of relationships, destroyed my health. The girl I thought I was going to marry left me, and I hit this rock bottom point that I was almost homeless. And it was a very hard time, but looking back on it, it was a huge blessing because it literally just shattered all those layers off of fear that really weren't who I was. And it gave me the opportunity to kind of reset and relook at my life and just hit the reset button, so to speak. So at that point, I said, at any cost, I'm going to ride my bike more. Okay, I don't care if my parents don't think I don't care if I make enough money and I don't have as much reputation. I'm going to ride my bike more, and by golly, I'm going to travel, and I'm going to go do this big trip, and I'm going to go and explore my world. Well, I had no money, so I was completely broke, but I was determined to go and travel around the world. And so the third thing that happened was something moved in me that said, at any cost, I'm going to have a life of significance. I'm going to do something. I didn't know what, but I'm going to do something to be of service. And that was maybe that layers of fear that let that natural compassion start to kind of flourish. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what it is, but I started telling everyone, my family, my friends, I'm going to go around the world by bike. I'm going to go around the world by bike. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it. And everyone just said the same thing. You're crazy. You're going to get killed. You're going to get kidnapped. The Muslims are going to kill you. I know all these different fears, and a lot of them unjust fears, as you can imagine. So that's where my inspiration came to create Peace Peddlers, which is a suiting topic for what's going on. I had no idea how a trip around the world by bike was going to create peace. I just created a logo, recruited my best friend, Garrick. And we created a website, and we started going out with no money, telling sponsors, you should sponsor us because we're going to go create peace on bikes. And they said, I don't get it. How are you going to create peace on bikes? And we didn't know how we were going to create peace on bikes, but we said we're going to do it in some way. Well, out of that intention and out of that vision came inspiration, as it does. My friend Garrick said, what if we took tandem bikes? Instead of mountain bikes, we took 2-seat bikes. We rode the front seats, and we picked up strangers and a gesture of peace and friendship. And I was like, that's a cool idea. That would help us manifest this vision of peace, right? We're picking up different cultures and religious barriers and language barriers and skin colors. This would be great. But at the same time, I said, how are we going to take tandem bikes down our single track trails? It's just not possible. And so we're in a little bit of a predicament, but we said, let's figure it out. We got to find a way to do both. We didn't know how, but we'll find a way to do both. Well, a couple of days later, Garrick sent me this drawing, my good friend, and he said, we could make a single bike and a tandem bike in the same bike. Nobody had ever done it before. We called it a tangle. So now we went back to all the sponsors that said no, and we said, hey, we have a new spin on this. We're going to do an international mountain bike trip that does have a plan. We have this tandem bike, and now they all perked up. They said, now this has a plan. This is cool. This is different. I ended up finding 40 corporate sponsors to believe in our vision, and we set off and we realized our trip. We started in Japan. Neither of us spoke any Japanese, so we didn't know how we were going to actually tell people to get on the back of the bike. But we just pointed at the seat and we smiled and we gave thumbs up, and people accepted that spirit of play with open arms and hopped on the back of the bikes from the back roads of Japan to the side alleys of China. That spirit of play was accepted wholeheartedly. And so by the time we were ready we were in Xi'an, China here on the way to just start going up to the Himalayas towards Nepal and Tibet. We thought we were invincible. Super proud, very happy until this happened. I don't know if anyone reads Chinese in here, but you can see our faces, and there's only one bike because someone stole one of the bikes in broad daylight on country 3 of 81. We were pretty devastated, but we're also very determined to find the bike. We got in the newspaper, we made flyers, we made a lot of noise. We told everyone, please help us find the bike. Well, someone knocked on our door, and it was this man right here, and he took us out to dinner. It was the Xi'an Police Department chief of police. And he took us over, and he had this big meal set out, and he looked across, and he said, Jamie, Garrick, we're going to find your bikes. And we're like, oh, you found them? You found them? He said, no, we didn't find them. We'll find them, but only if you promise not to go to the media again. You can't go to the newspaper again. And I said, well, okay, tell me why, what happened anyways, just tell me. And he said, well, when that article came out, so many people from the Xi'an community called the police department to complain and tell us to find your bike, that we couldn't make or receive phone calls for 2 days. So I still get chills when I tell this story, because it was our first time that we had massive doses of compassion from total strangers who heard our story, saw our pain, saw our sadness, and made an action, right? And that compassion helped the police do the first ever sting operation for a stolen bike in China, and found the bike being sold for $45, and we were get back on the bike again. So we made our way, this is Garrick's first rider, as we made our way up to China, up into up towards Tibet, and every time, and we were able to realize our dream to mountain bike. That's Mount Everest in the background. To realize our dream to mountain bike the Everest region. And every time we were cold and wet, going over the Himalayas, going from 14, 15,000 foot passes, people would bring us in. They would get us warm, get us wet yak butter tea, let us dry off. When I was sick, which happened quite a bit, people that were strangers would come and be by my side. They'd bring me food, they'd bring me medicine, total strangers. That started to, again, peel layers. So Garrick and I started to, well, what could we do for, to kind of pay it back? So we started looking for ways. We found some toys and brought them to orphanages and started giving rides to orphans along the way to bring smiles along the way. And this is another area that I found to be quite fascinating, because I experienced it. That is an actual scientific fact, that we're born with a brain that creates personal joy when you help and give. So the brain, not only are we wired as kids, as babies, to have a natural, innate, compassionate instinct, but also we feel better and have the same firing in our brains when we give, which is an amazing way that we've been created as a human species. So we were able to experience that as we went out and gave rides, hundreds of rides out to orphans, and brought, this is a blind man in Thailand who had never been on a bike, and being able to listen to how he experiences wind in his face going through the streets of Thailand. So I was having as much fun, obviously, as they were having. And it was a beautiful, beautiful journey. And when I was in trouble, like in Fiji and lost and broken bikes, people would take us in. Lost in the middle of the back countries of Australia, people would take me home, make sure I was safe. So that compassion was just, it was an incredible experience. And by the time I finished Asia and Oceania, this inspiration came to me when I was on a plane. For some reason, I always cry on planes for some reason, I don't know why. But I came up with this idea, like live big, give big. And it was this little simple motto that I decided to bring into it. And it was like, I felt like I was already living big, having a great expedition around the world. But I was like, what if we could just, the same intention and power I put into my own personal things, push it into like, how big could we give? How big could I give? And just made this simple motto. And I said, I'm gonna take that as we move forward. And now, so to do that, I created this thing called the Giving Radar. And it was my own visual thing that I did. I said, I'll just wake up in the morning, click on the Giving Radar, and see what happens. And that was part of the adventure. Didn't know what it was going to do, but I had Africa to do. I was a 22 country tour of Africa. Very scary, because I was by myself. My friend Garrick had an accident, so I was by myself going through the African continent through 22 countries in 2 years. The Giving Radar went off, and I found that African families spend up to 20% of their family budget just on transportation. A lot of it is getting their kids to and from school. So we made bracelets. I decided to make bracelets that said live big, give big on it. And we sold a whole bunch of bracelets, and were able to donate 100 bikes to give the gift of freedom and mobility to kids out in Kailesha. And it was as rewarding for me as it was for them, as you can imagine. So with this Give Big Radar, we kept on, started making my way through Africa, riding with the African people. When I was lost or on the wrong road that was dangerous or scared or by myself, people would come. If my bike was broken, people would come out of the woodworks and help me keep me going. If I was lost, people would come and help guide me my way. And I was able to just, again, have this awesome connection out into the world. The Giving Radar came on again when I was planning to continue up through sub-Saharan Africa, and found out that 1 million people die every year of malaria. And these are the communities that I was going to be traveling through, the ones that were embracing me. So I was like, I got to do something. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't a doctor. I didn't know how to administer malaria. I just knew that there was a problem. So this is another kind of nugget that I learned earlier in life, and I wanted to share with you for what it's worth. I call it the comfort zone. People have probably heard this before, but I'll share it like my experience with it. Everything inside of this circle is things that we're comfortable with, right? Types of people we like, types of jobs we like to do, the types of sports we like to do, types of activity. So, anything that's inside the comfort zone tends to be things that we're already good at or feel comfortable with. Things that are outside of the comfort zone make us scared. They're a little scary because we don't know what they are. They're scary things that, and for me, in this case, all the things that were outside there, like I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about malaria medication. I don't have a clinic. I'm not a nonprofit. All these things were scary of how I was going to do this. But what I realized was if I just were to just go out of it anyways, that the comfort zone is indeed elastic. So it stretches out and allows more things that you used to be afraid of not to be scary anymore. And that was driven by this compassion that was saying, I got to try to do my best to help these people. So we contacted Novartis, one of the largest pharmaceutical companies, and Panasonic, and they became much larger corporate sponsors to be able to now travel with thousands of doses of malaria medication to go into small remote villages and help elderly and kids not lose their lives during the malaria season that I was going through. And again, under the live big, give big kind of mentality I have, I never stopped, right? And I never stopped dancing and enjoying all the culture and the music. I never stopped my passion of surfing. And of course, I never stopped riding and mountain biking and all those things, right? I tried to keep that mentality. For me, it was an experiment. It was really kind of the world became my petri dish because I wanted to one day be able to share this and say it is possible to do them both. So that led me to a man named Innocent here in Uganda. Innocent had never been on a bike before, and he came on the bike and we built an awesome friendship on this ride. And he shared with me his dream. He said, I want to start a school for AIDS orphans and the needy in my community. He shared that when kids, parents would die of AIDS, which happened a lot out there, the kids would end up not getting educated in the fields. And he said, I really want to start this school. And again, back to the comfort zone, like starting a school for AIDS orphans and the needy while I was traveling by bike was way out of my comfort zone. Like I have no idea how I was going to do it. The easy thing to say, sorry, I don't know how to start a school. That's the easy thing to do, right? That would be in my comfort zone. But I said, we're going to figure it out. I have no idea how, but we'll figure it out. So I gave him $5 when we hugged goodbye. And I said, get an email account and send me a picture of what you think the school would look like. A couple of days later, he sent me this picture. This guy was serious about this. In the meantime, I was riding back up the coast of West Africa, and I would send him little email tasks, and I would keep riding and meeting the people and eating great meals in the kitchens and all the way up to Morocco. And each of these times I'd send him these tasks, he would send me photos of updates. He found land donated, he found a board, he found building supplies donated by the community. I didn't have money to send him, right? But he just went and followed steps. And I carried on a 28-country tour of Europe. This is in Switzerland, all the way up to Scandinavia. I spent $500 in an 8-month tour of Europe, just staying with the local people. It was absolutely phenomenal. And at the same time, he found teachers and he found students while we were traveling around the world. So it was an absolutely awesome to see this kind of vision of Live Big, Give Big actually happening. So the last turn as I started making my way home was the Americas, right? Starting in South America. And one of my most exciting riders I picked up was a Spanish backpacker named Christina, who came on for a 16-kilometer bike ride. She loved, when I told her about what we were doing with the spirit of peace paddlers, she loved it. And the 16-kilometer ride ended up extending to 20 days. She got her own bike and joined me as we helped film and share the stories of connection between all these different cultures. And the Giving Radar came out again as I made my way to Bolivia and researched what's going on in Bolivia. There's 30% of Bolivians who don't have access to clean water. And so I said, well, this is actually a real water source where people get their water from. I said, well, I'd like to do something. I didn't know what, but I met a man named Bruno. So we're going to talk about Bruno. So I met a man named Bruno, and Bruno is a water engineer by trade. So that's the way the universe works. We all can tune into that. I said, I want to do something. I don't know how. And here comes Bruno, who's a water engineer. So he shared a community that carries water from water sources like that and stores it in sources like this to eat and cook. And people were getting sick and even dying from this. And again, talk about the comfort zone, bringing fresh water to a Bolivian community while traveling the world by bike. I didn't know how to do that, but he really wanted to do something about it. And he was my friend. So I said, well, let's figure it out. So we made a little bit of a plan. I kept riding on while he went and found a water source, tested the water, and found the community to go and build trench for miles and miles of trenches from where the water source to where the village was. And meanwhile, I kept riding. Christina, who was in the last frame, came back again, and we carried on all the way from Chile all the way up to Colombia. And by the time we parted ways, one of the biggest gifts of the ride was this boy right here named Luca. Here he is in the back right there. Christina and I conceived Luca on the way. And we were married soon after the ride was finished. And Christina and I were able to to get all the tubing raised to put into those trenches and bring together the water to the Iango community. And this is the Good Hope School now. It's actually much bigger now, but that is Innocent and the School for AIDS Orphans and the Needy, which is alive and well today. And this is our family here, which the biggest gift is now having 3 kiddos and being able to live amongst this amazing community that we have here in Bend, Oregon, which we're very happy to be here. So I thought I would do some last takeaways to think and shine some awareness on as we leave today. Obviously, our innate compassion is something I think there's an opportunity to listen to that. And what does it feel like? For me, it felt like a longing for something more. Even though I had everything I thought I should always feel, but there was still a longing for something more. The joy of giving and helping that is available. Our comfort zone, we talked about that being elastic, and small, brave steps out of that comfort zone can lead to big things. And the openness to help and to be helped, and to reach out for help if there are things scary and we feel ourselves being drawn to do things that we may have thought about doing but never did. It's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to step up what we can do out there and live big, give big. It is possible. That's kind of what I do. My work right now is helping individuals, companies, and organizations do that. And I'm here to help. This is how to find me at my website there. And if there's any way that I can help anyone who's wanting to make any kind of leaps for something that's expanded with extended possibilities, that's my life work. So it's been a pleasure sharing the journey with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And I guess that's the end of it, huh? Thank you. Thank you.